Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Sell More Book Show episode. Can you believe it? 520. You divide that by 10, you've got 52. What does that mean? 52 weeks, 10 years. Oh my gosh, 10 years of the Sell More Book Show. Can barely believe it. I'm Brian Cohen from Best Page Forward, joined by Kirsten Oliphant from the Creative Writing Facebook group, as well as the Emma St. Clair fantastic romance novels, rom-com novels. So, Kirsten, you're back here. Isn't it crazy? 10 years of this show.
It's amazing. I feel like I should have prepared like a surprise or had like a confetti cannon. Had I thought more, like had you warned me, there might have been a confetti cannon.
I did not warn you.
I have like packing shredded stuff. I could throw that in the air if you need a visual.
Okay.
But it's all the way over there.
Yeah.
Again, I could have had it right here on my desk to
I know.
toss. But that's amazing. I mean, podcasting, people come in and out. I came and I'm out. I did it for 6 years, which felt like a lot, but like 10, and I took breaks. Like you guys, you've been around for a long time. That doesn't mean you're old. It means you're seasoned and your show is seasoned.
I like that. Yeah. The little bit of salt and pepper hair and
no, we look the same as we did when we met 7 years ago.
We really
just
do.
The same. Mm-hmm.
We're exactly the same. Clones. Well, what I loved about what we got to talk about last week was just that, we have a lot of similar opinions on the author world. We know that people are working hard out there, but it is difficult. It is, because the easiest thing to do for an author is to, just try to do exactly what some successful person did. And it's hard because they are not the same personality and the same strengths as that successful person. And so anything that they try to just straight up copy off that person is going to be a carbon copy. It's going to feel like a poor copy. And so individualization is really important, but that's hard. And it sounds hard to figure out your own journey. I mean, when you've seen people, because we've both been around for a while, we've seen some people go from 0 to hundreds of thousands. Like, what do you think some of these successful people have done to really focus on doing what's right for them, to succeed for them, and not just because, so-and-so did it?
That's a good question, because I was thinking, because I didn't mention this last, you talked about being hopeful. I'm like the pessimist. So we're like,
I know, which is great.
But I was thinking, like, for just as many of those, I've seen people who were 6 and 7 figure authors in these Facebook groups, like, help, I can't sell a book now. And so I feel like I've kind of seen both, but the people who have, and I think there are a lot of ups and downs. I thought this was like, once you go up, you just go up. And then I realized pretty quickly, like, no, there's a lot of opportunity to go down. So I think, working on things that last, like, email list is always going to be one of those things, because that is something that you control. There's no algorithm to your inbox. And so there's not, although there's the what is it, promo tab, but there's not something external that is going to, shift it the way that, TikTok being banned or Instagram changing some massive things does. So I think doing the kinds of evergreen things you can. So email list, connecting with your readers, and that doesn't have to be personal, because not every author has to have a more personal relationship. You can absolutely just write books and be kind of invisible. I've seen people do that too, but writing, at least connecting, at the very least, connecting to the readers through your books. Those are kind of the things that will last, and find the things you like and do more of it.
Yes, I fully agree. I think it's really hard because we see all these things that we might not like and we might not resonate with, but we see people doing them successfully. Like, you dislike TikTok, you mentioned last week, but a lot of people have succeeded on TikTok. And so it's hard.
It is. And I've had success. Like, I've had really like one viral book, and it out of nowhere made me like an enormous amount of money in 1 month. But I haven't been able to replicate that, and to that degree. And so I will use the tools I don't like. I'll force myself, but I also, my base is on something different. Like I'll do those things I don't like, but that's once I establish something else that I'll do longer, I guess.
Right. I like to think of it as an 80% box and a 20% box. I will put things I don't like, but that I feel like I have to do into my 20% box. And I try not to let it take up more than 20% of my time. Because then I'm going to hate what I do. And I don't want to hate what I do.
No. And it is hard, to see something like TikTok where it really does sell books. I mean, it's funny because if you'd asked me 7 years ago, and I would have firmly said, and it was true, that social media didn't sell books. And that's, I think that's one of the biggest things that's changed. And I have to, I had to go back and change a whole bunch of my stuff. Like, oh, it does now. Spoiler alert, this will change, but it didn't, 7 years ago when I started, and when I first started my career, I wasn't selling books. So
no, agreed. Awesome. Well, last week or previous week's question was, have you tried using Substack? If so, what was your approach to finding success? Bethany Tucker said, I looked at it and decided to go with community posts and updates on Ream, with tiers for paid subscribers instead. This way, I can immediately and directly feed readers into my content, but also give away what I want to offer in a social reading function. So very interesting. Bethany using Ream rather than Substack. Next one over to you, Kirsten.
Sure. Amy Mertensen said, I haven't tried Substack and don't think it would be a good fit for me. I've spent a great deal of effort and time building my email list and have seen great results from it with sales and making some wonderful subscriber friends.
That is awesome for Amy. And we're fans of email too.
Yes.
And Roland Denzel said, I subscribe to a couple of them. I think the ones from researchers and nonfiction authors teaching something are the best fit. Also, it seems good for thought leaders and other people who you'd typically be willing to pay to hear from. Yeah, that's kind of been my experience too, Roland. I did not realize, and this is me always trying to keep up with stuff, Kirsten.
Yeah.
I did not realize that so many authors were looking into Ream and kind of treating it like they, like Patreon used to be the big focus now. Yeah. Ream is a big thing. I joined one of those subscriptions for authors groups, and there were 5,000 people in there. So obviously people are pretty fired up about it. But it's similar. It's like 99% of people are trying it, but it's tough. And 1% of people are finding success from it. Great for that 1%. But I ask, the people who aren't having success with it, is it a good fit for you? Do you want to be consistently making short content for a subscription thing? And for me, I'd be like, heck no.
I love Michael Evans from Ream. He's fantastic. If you haven't connected with him, you really should. And I love Ream. I used Ream almost a year. I just quit. And honestly, the only reason I did, my subscription was making money, and, I had a survey and my PA went through it because I just right now can't handle negative feedback. So I was like, tell me how it is. She was like, you're doing great. Like, here are a couple things you can improve on, but overall people are really happy. And I shut it down because for me, and I think part of this is, I mentioned in the previous episode, learning I have ADHD, I'm having to take a step back and say what things are not working for my brain.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll work for my brain before, but I've done like 3 or 4 memberships and I always quit doing them because of this mental and emotional weight for me. And so I've had to just realize, like, I might be making enough money to do this, but it's the emotional drain is too hard because of how I work. So whether it's Substack or Ream, again, it's nice to try things, but I didn't like when I started seeing a lot of people talk about using Substack in place of email. And I kept being like, Substack may send emails. It is not your email list, and do not replace it. Like, you're not getting automations. You're not getting all the benefits. So I'm cool with Substack, Ream, whatever things you want, but that is not a replacement for email. It's something different.
Agreed. And you can find out, which of your opinions we value the most by posting on the Sell More Book Show After Party Facebook group. Now, you can answer the questions of the week. We love reading out some of your answers on the air, and you can also find that on the sellmorebookshow.com website. We've got our top story, which I'm excited about. Direct Selling Survey says, quote, what does it really take to make direct sales work for authors? Asks Dave Chesson in a post on Kindlepreneur. To find out, Chesson had his team survey over 800 authors who were actively selling direct. Unsurprisingly, authors with more books tended to make more money. Those with 10 plus books earned $2,270 per month on average, 6 times those with just 2 to 4 books. Romance, fantasy, mystery, thriller, and nonfiction genres dominated. One of the most crucial factors for success, the email list. Authors with 15,000 plus subscribers earn $6,119 per month on average, a 20 times return versus those with email lists under 100. Quote, while higher royalties and greater independence is compelling, direct sales is not always an easy undertaking, Chesson says. For authors willing to put in the effort, exploring direct sales can be well worth it. However, those just starting out or with limited marketing bandwidth may find the added complexities overwhelming, end quote. If you are ready to take the leap, Kindlepreneur has a new in-depth start-to-finish guide on how to sell books direct to readers in 2024, which is linked in our show notes. Kirsten, oh man, everyone's talking about direct selling. I haven't seen a survey like this, honestly. Maybe there have been a few, but it's so funny how it always goes back to the old stuff still works. 20 times value on 20 times the sales per month for authors with over 15,000 on their list versus those with under 100. That's pretty telling.
Well, I wonder too, and I didn't read the article, I'm just reading this write-up of it. Is this the email? Because this is the other thing, just like with Substack, I've heard a lot of people doing direct talk about the people who are on their Klaviyo lists, which is like the tool used for a lot of people with direct sales. So I'm like, do they mean that list or do they mean their email list? Because those are also can be different and how you handle them can be different. So I'm not sure. I'd be interested to know. I'm guessing he means like legit old fashioned email list. But when I hear a lot of, I just do a lot of lurking and spying on people, not spying, lurking, lurking, and just watching what people say in Facebook groups about different things. And so a lot of them who do direct, I don't hear them talking as much about email lists. They talk about their customer lists, or they talk about those, the whether it's Klaviyo or another tool, those people, that list. And so they're talking about that, which is, I've done dabbling with direct and, but it's not something I'm doing now. So, but I'd be interested. That's how they talk. So I'd be interested in what they mean by that.
The article does not distinguish.
Okay.
It does mention Klaviyo as the advanced recommendation for what email list provider you would use, email service provider you would use. But you're absolutely right. I mean, it's like, if you have 15,000 customers, 6,119 probably isn't enough because you should be making more. But even just, a general email list of 15,000, over 15,000, that average monthly revenue, like 10 to 15,000, which makes me think it's just general email list and not Klaviyo, is at an average of 2,400 per month. So if you had 10,000 Klaviyo signups, and Klaviyo allows you to do all those wonderful little abandoned cart emails if someone left the book in your cart, but they didn't buy it, or it'll email them on their birthday and all that good stuff, that increases how many people buy. So I'm going to guess this is your general old-fashioned email list, which goes to show that building that email list may still need to be one of your top priorities, no matter what you want to do, Ream, Substack, direct sales, any of that stuff.
Yeah, agreed, definitely. But it's really interesting to see that survey because there is so much talk about direct sales. So to hear those numbers, and I always love what Dave puts together. So I'm sure that's a great guide. Because like with your trainings that you do, I feel like when whatever you're getting from him, you're getting quality, solid, in-depth info.
Yes. No, he always goes above and beyond. We've probably mentioned Kindlepreneur on this show over 1,000 times in 10 years. But yeah, so hot potato of wisdom question for you, Kirsten. Based on this survey, and feel free to qualify this answer in as many ways as you want, who do you think might want to consider direct sales and who might want to hold off?
Right. I think, and this, kind of coincides with the survey, but also doesn't, or is sort of outside of it. I think if you don't have books that are selling already on the ebook platforms, like especially if you're in KU, which I think I'm solid KU right now, except for my backlist of romance. Like my rom-coms, my bestseller, they're all in KU. And it can be a low-hanging fruit. And a lot of people talk about it that way because you don't, you've got the subscription. You can pick out 20 books. And if you don't like it, you just return it. And you haven't spent more than however much it costs per month. I don't remember right now. It's, charged on there. I don't think about it. It's like the toll tag. Like you don't think about it. It's not real money. But if you're not selling books, and again, it could be the visibility of it. But if you've been trying and they're not selling on those platforms, I don't know why you'd move to direct, because I feel like it so much of it depends on the product, but also the time. I just saw somebody commenting it took them 90 hours to build a Shopify store, and they have a lot of a big backlist. But at the same time, like this is not easy. This is not quick work, and it's not quick money. And it requires almost everybody I talk to, it requires advertising. So you need the product, you need some cash, and you need some time to be able to set up a store, which I think if you're going to do it, you need to not pay someone to do your store necessarily, but you need to pay for training, because when we move out of talking about email lists and go into Klaviyo, which is more like a CRM, like a client relationship manager type thing, which are those entrepreneurial words we don't talk about a lot in the book world, but it's a CRM. When you're talking about those things, there is an advanced level of training. And so having somebody who understands not just running advertisement, but running specific direct kind of ads and how to do that. So to me, it's a much more advanced thing. And it's not something everybody should jump on unless you have, those books and you have the time and you have the money.
Well said. Well said. It's very advanced. I actually went through trying to get a Shopify store together for some of my author services in-house. Didn't work out. Put a lot of money, a lot of time into it. Trying again a second time. Definitely doing it with the pros. Not doing that myself, but I also have the resources for that. And
exactly.
Not everybody does. We've got a hot potato wisdom question from you to me.
Yeah. So if an author wants to go direct, but isn't ready, where should they focus for right now? Which is a great question.
I think if an author is really wanting to go direct, they've seen this out there. Maybe they're a reader and they read direct as well. They buy the paperbacks off of folks' Shopify stores, but they don't quite have the books there. I mean, it comes down to two things. And the survey really pointed out one thing, build that email list, make those connections with readers. Second thing is you need to up your craft. You need to keep reading in your genre or reading in the genres you want to write in. You need to learn more. You need to write the books that might sell a little better on Amazon and might profit a little on Amazon. And then you can try to pivot. But if you've got books that you run Amazon ads to and they take 40 clicks to get a sale, that's not going to work direct either, because direct has even lower conversion than Amazon ads. And so I would say get back to the writing, get back to improving. You might have to write a couple of series until you find the one that succeeds. But when you do, it may sell in a multitude of ways. Oh, hey.
Love that.
Thank you. Awesome. We are going to the lightning round here, but this, I don't know. I see an extra question that snuck in here, but
it's a bonus.
Bonus question here. We'll do this as the previous, before the lightning sound, Kirsten. We'll even say, I'll just ask you two in a row. That's how we're going to do this.
Okay.
So if you publish books very slowly, what can you do to help readers remember you when it's time to launch your next book?
Well, I think you don't let them forget you in the first place. So, I know so many people hate writing emails and feel like I don't want to bug people. And when I taught, I had a course on email way back in the day. I would say you need to just do it weekly. Like at the very least, by, twice a month or monthly, but really it should be weekly. And people are like, I don't have anything to say. I'm like, look, we can work on the things to say. We're creative people. We can work it out. Like you got to get over the mental block of it, because a lot of people have that mental block.
Yeah.
But people shouldn't forget you in the first place, because that's part of the work. Right. And so, and you don't have to just do email, like on Instagram. Like, so for when I'm switching to a new book, I try not to talk about the next book even though you're always writing the next book when one book
Yeah.
comes out. Well, not always, but I tend to be. And I'm so excited about the book I'm writing, but I have to stay excited about the book I just published.
Yeah.
But when I'm moving up toward a launch, like, this is how I do my Instagram, where it's kind of based on like the book colors and the branding switches to, I don't have a consistent brand for years. If you switch back through, you can almost see in my Instagram when a book was coming, because it was like, now we're in orange for this fall book. And I have a whole bunch of teasers, which I write while I'm writing the book. When I write a line, I'm like, ooh, I love that line. I have a Canva doc and I just pop it in there. And then later I might make it prettier, but it's there.
Yeah.
And so I just keep on doing those things beforehand to get people excited about it. But I think you just have to keep showing up, and so that no one does forget who you are, because a lot of readers, my readers, some of them read a book or 2 a day. I've actually heard a few say they read 3 or 4. I think, and they will forget you, so I think trying to stay in contact in some ways, but also writing books that are memorable. Like, I don't want people to just pick up mine because they want a rom-com. I want them to pick up my books because they want an Emma St. Clair rom-com. Yes. And so trying to put some hallmarks of me that are in all of my books that carry through, so that they are, the product is memorable. And then I try to stay kind of top of mind without being annoying if I can. Maybe it's annoying, but that's okay.
Well, that's, an Emma St. Clair annoying rom-com. No,
right,
just
exactly.
Kidding. Just
in
kidding.
your face. Emma in your face St. Clair. That's my new middle name.
See, I love that you kind of said, or if you have to, twice a month through gritted teeth, because I always do the same thing. Right. I'm like, dude, if you really want to make connections with your readers weekly, you got to make those connections and stay top of mind.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be complicated. I think people feel like it's this big thing. It doesn't. You could sit down and probably take an hour and batch, like, a year's worth of weekly emails is 52. What are 52 ideas? And it could be a 3-pair. I mean, my emails are short. They're short, so.
Yeah. No, good advice. Good advice. All right. Now it's time for your lightning sound. You've got another chance, another shot at it, Kirsten.
I don't think I'm going to be better, but.
Ooh, I thought dramatic. That was better. I thought it
was. You're saying my first one was bad. That's what you just said. I'm
saying, as an optimist, that I think you grew from lightning sound to lightning sound.
Thank you. I will take my lightning growth.
Okay, good. So, speaking of growth, you recently came upon the discovery that you are a high-achieving person who is also neurodivergent. How have you treated yourself differently since making this reveal?
Yeah, this is a fun one. Because I'm still working on this. I realized while researching a character who was neurodivergent, I was like, oh, so like, this is also me. Like, no idea. And I'm in my mid-40s. And so that was kind of a shock, and there's the ADHD, but there's also some sensory processing. Like, there were a couple things that because I was writing a character who discovered this in her 20s. And so I was like, oh, she would find, I was Googling things. I was like, oh, there are these tests online. She would take these. So I'll take them to see what they were. And then when the answers were like, you are nowhere near neurotypical, I was like, that's surprising. So for me, I feel like it's still a journey. And I think at first I kind of was like, oh, well, that's just cool. Now I know that. And I've got my life figured out. But I've been realizing the more I've looked into it and started listening to some podcasts, especially about women who have ADHD, that's been a big one for me. Like, how many ways that impacts my life I didn't know it impacted my life. Like, I feel like I've got a lot of processes in place that were me almost like kind of compensating and figuring out what worked for me, but I didn't know why I had to, like, why do I write on the elliptical machine, typing into my phone? Oh, it's this reason,
Yeah.
But now I'm kind of more actively like taking a little bit of a step back from some of the things, like, getting rid of my membership was a part of that. And I told them, I was like, this is really, the more I'm learning about this side of things, the more I'm realizing this does not work for the way my brain works. And I don't know that it ever will. And so I think taking the time to sort of, and also learn about the things, like, I can accomplish great things, but that was one of the things in the first chapter of a book I'm reading called How to ADHD, which is phenomenal. And the first chapter, the woman talked about how you can be so successful in this one area and then be failing. Like, you can't remember to put the laundry in the dryer. Yeah. And I was just like, there are so many areas in my life that are failing and I just ignore them because these are successful. And so that was kind of a big thing. So I'm taking some time, I guess, to do that.
I think that's great. I mean, it's definitely one of those things that has become more authors in the community are saying, oh, I did not realize that
Yes.
actually I was neurodivergent. And so,
Yes. And sorry,
yeah.
I'm moving for the people
Wow.
watching because I have to go let my dog out, unfortunately, or he's going to start getting really loud. But we'll just
Oh,
ignore that. So
yeah. We'll
we'll
ignore
shuffle,
it.
shuffle.
Yeah. So, to make your life easier, how about I ask myself this question that
I can read it. I'm
you
good
can
at
read it?
reading
You
and
ready?
walking.
Okay. I've never had an answer on
We're
the
getting like
move.
a little house tour while asking
Yeah,
questions
this
in
is
here.
nice. Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so my question for you is why do you think that knowing more about yourself can impact how successful you are in your author career?
Okay, I like this. So I think that we are so focused sometimes when we're trying to be successful as authors. We are so focused on what did that person do? What did this person do? What did so and so millionaire do? And then we're like, well, we have to try that to see if it works because maybe it solves all my other problems. But there are two big issues with that, which is one, you are not the same person who had that success. And two, you have to figure out just, well, what is going to fit with you and your day and your life? Because I have seen some people, hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, they are having great success, and every other part of their life is falling apart. And it's like, well, is that what you want too? It's like, no. So you can't just say, well, I'll do it different. I'll do all the parts that this person is doing, like write 20 books a day, and everything else will be fine. You need to know more about yourself and learn more about yourself and be willing to tap into that information. There's so much more out there. We're learning about strengths from Becca Syme, Enneagram from Claire Taylor. We're learning about all these wonderful tests of being neurotypical or not. All this stuff that is not something we talked about 10 years ago when the show began. And so we have the ability to know ourselves a lot better than we did at the start of this journey. And if you do learn yourself and know yourself, you are going to have a better chance of you succeeding, not you succeeding with someone else's plan for 2 months until it doesn't work anymore.
Reach.
Yeah.
That's like, yeah, absolutely. That's so good.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Kirsten, so while many of the authors succeeding in romance and rom-com, they write a little bit spicy, you write closed door. How do you think this has made you approach the marketing of your books differently?
Yeah, this is a good question. And I think different authors who are on the more closed door side handle theirs differently. There's a range. For
Yeah.
me, it's about the reader expectations. And so some of them that I know don't specifically market as closed door, but I do intentionally. And I actually have started putting a content warning, even though my books are very light and happy, I do put a content warning in the front of my books. And there's always something, like past loss of parents, like even things like that, which have now people appreciate those kind of warnings.
Yeah.
Then the last couple are funny. Like I make fun of someone with a mullet, like attacks on mullet. And then at the very bottom, there's like a big thing. It's like, there is no sex in this book. Like I
Yeah.
put that on there and I, try in my marketing as well, because the thing that happens, and even with doing that and even putting as many kinds of, indicators on my Amazon page, I always get low reviews. Like there's no sex. I'm like, if you had read, like, and I know Amazon sometimes will hop you right into the chapter one.
Yeah.
So it is, though, it's everywhere. Often it's in my hashtags or the descriptions. It's on, the word, there's so many, the terms are really hard, right? Because sweet,
Yes.
sometimes steamy authors who aren't writing dark will call their books sweet, while
Yes.
sweet for a lot of people means like clean, like synonymous with that. But I do put sweet because that's at least an indicator, like, hey, we might want to, like, what kind of sweet, versus something else. But I do try to do that because I don't want people to be disappointed. And I have a ton of readers who read mostly steamy or spicy books, who read mine and do enjoy them and do love them. And they'll call them like palate cleansers. Some of them I'm like, all right, I'll take it, like I'll take that.
Yeah.
But I think if you're writing the kinds of characters and stories, again, that people resonate with, whether or not there's that kind of content on the page, they're going to enjoy. So that's my goal, is to write. I do write with my primary audience in mind, which is the closed door crowd. And I'm very aware, like sometimes I'll write things in the book that get cut later. But I do keep them in mind, but I also keep in mind the idea that I want to write a story that anyone could read and resonate with. Anyone who likes rom-com, not anyone in the world, because rom-com isn't for everybody. So anyone in the rom-com world, spicy or closed door.
Love that. That is really, really helpful. Awesome. Question to me.
Yes. Okay. This is a good one. How often do you check your sales statistics for your books? Why so often or so rarely? And I'm so interested in your answer for this one.
Yeah, of course. So, okay. When it comes to me checking my sales stats, it's a little bit different because I used to make a higher percentage of my income from my books, and now it is lower. It is right now in the $800 to $1,200 a month range. Used to be higher in the $3,000 to $4,000 a month range, but my overall income has gone up for overall parts of the business, including the coaching and the blurbs and the ad school and agency and all of that stuff. So because books are now not my highest earner anymore, even though I've been fortunate enough to sell several $100,000 worth of books over the last 12 years, I don't check it that often. Maybe every 3 or 4 days when I think of it, or if I send out a social media post or an email, I'll like, oh, let's see if we got a bump from this. My general sales stats for my business, pretty much every day. I mean, I definitely still want to know how things are trending. I definitely have some big goals over the course of the next 3 years. I want to double my business's revenue. And so I'm like, well, how am I trending versus 2023? And I will bring up like a custom graph of like, well, let's compare January, February, March of last year to this year and see where the spikes are and see what's changing. And so I'm still checking that almost every single day. If we have a sale of some kind or a webinar, I will check it multiple times for sure. Because, I've learned, and I think Claire, as the former co-host of this show, was very helpful with this. It's not always about the results. You can't tie your emotions and your value of self-worth to your results. And yet, when results do happen, it feels really good, and I don't want to deprive myself of that either. And so I do think it's normal to check your sales on a regular basis, but I will say, and this is something I'm still learning to do, hold on loosely to results because they can be a double-edged sword.
That's really good.
Yeah, thank you.
If you're not checking, you don't know if it's working or not. But at the same time, like I found the checking to be really stressful. And so I don't do it enough. Like my books are my main income. And I was like, when's the last time I looked?
Yeah.
I don't know. And I just had a book launch. And so I've been almost like, I'm kind of like peeking through my fingers at it because it causes anxiety. So I sometimes have other people look for me and just be like, I don't need a number. Just tell me if I should like turn my ads down or like, do I need to adjust some stuff? Like, because it's stressful, but
I'm right there with you.
If it's not causing you anxiety, you kind of need to know if this is your business.
Yeah. And I'm not going to say it doesn't cause me anxiety because it does. It for sure does. Yeah. So I'm right there with you on that.
Yeah.
All right. Fun news here for our last one. You recently got a book deal with Thomas Nelson. Why did you decide to pursue the hybrid route?
Yeah, this is a fun one. I think I always assumed I'd do trad, traditional publishing, just because I got my MFA and I came out of school and got an agent right away. We started sending stuff to New York, different stuff completely than what I'm writing now. It was like literary, dark literary, young adult. And so I think I always thought I would come back, and I didn't really expect to go indie ever. And also when I came out of grad school, it was right before Kindle days, right? So it was before indies. It was when self-publishing was like, oh, you couldn't make it, so you put a bunch of books in the trunk of your car and you try to like give them out. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the self-publishing when I came out of grad school. But I did always think about coming back, and I had an agent who I would check in with because my first book didn't sell. People liked it. They're like, send another. And I was like, I'm kind of busy having 5 kids right now. And so I just couldn't do it. And I also couldn't write that kind of book. But for me, coming back to it now, and I do plan to stay hybrid. I do plan to stay indie, intentionally so. And I think for me, the benefit of working with a publisher, I want to be doing this forever. I want to be writing books forever. And so I want to be connecting with as many readers as possible. And going through a traditional publisher is going to get me in front of a different audience, either one I can't afford with my ad dollars, or there's still a big percentage of people who only read trad books. They only read books in bookstores. They only read what's in Barnes and Noble. They only read what a publisher tells them is good. And so my hope is to get in front of some of those people. And I'd love for them to go read all of my books. And so, when I was talking to different publishers, we had some conversations and interviews as we were going through the process. That was my big thing, is I don't want these books to be any different than my other Emma books. And, I want them to fit in the same world even, because I want there to be a holistic thing where all of my books are Emma books. And, and this is sort of just a different distribution method. I'm also really excited because I don't ever want to stop growing. And I don't want to think because I've sold a lot of books that I know everything about writing. I don't. And working with a different editor is only going to make me better, which is going to help my indie books. So I'm hoping my indie book sales will push those book sales. And it will be different because I think, my books are primarily KU. And that will be different because they won't be with Thomas Nelson. And so that will be a hurdle I'm already thinking about as a worst case scenario person. But but in general, I just think it's a great way to expand the audience and then to get better, because I'm working with a team that might do things differently. And then so, I might be learning some things from them as well and improving. So I'm pretty excited about, just doing that. But to me, again, it's the whole ecosystem of like, I want an author career. I don't want, some kind of flash in the pan thing. So this is a matter of growing that whole, the whole readership.
Love that. Awesome. Well, it's very exciting for you. I was excited to hear about it, so had to share it here as well.
Yeah, thanks. It's fun. Well, I'm excited for 10 years. I feel like we should have had like more 10-year like memories or 10-year like.
I know. Yeah. I mean,
it's a lot of years to think back on.
It's hard because thinking about this show, now we do it, we record it a little bit more in batch. And so I hadn't even like looked ahead to think about it. And it's like, oh, whoops. But it is very awesome to have spent 10 years doing this and to have learned and grown. And there's still people who, never heard of the show. And so it's exciting to reach. We were recently on a BookBub's Best 25 podcast for authors sort of thing. And thank you. And then there were people who were like, ain't never heard of it. Here I am. And I'm like, hey, we're here. And yeah, it's been a delight. And I'm so happy to have gotten to meet so many wonderful people through that, including yourself. So
I think that's really great. And I think it's neat to see that you've been consistent, even though the format of the show has changed and who you have, who you're hosting with has changed. But it's always been great content, like whatever the format and guests. So way to go on that.
Thank you. Whoop, whoop. We need a question of the week, Kirsten. So for the 10-year question of the week, we certainly could ask something related to the 10 years. We could ask related to the direct selling. We could ask related to the being neurotypical. What do you want to find out here today?
Well, the two things I'm kind of interested in. So I'll give them to you and let you sort of decide. One would be, it could be a simple 10-year, like, where do you hope to be in 10 years? But that's kind of like, I have a hard time with those questions because I'm like, we talk about like next month, maybe like 10 years.
Right.
Maybe the apocalypse in 10 years. I do know I'll still have my audiobook contracts.
Oh my gosh. Yep. Those will last the apocalypse. Yeah.
Those will last at least 7. But the other one is, learning more about yourself. You had that question in there. And I know, is that something people are focused on, is learning, like what are maybe even specifics, like what are some things that you've learned about yourself that have impacted how you handle your author career?
I love that. What are some things you've learned about yourself that have impacted how you approach your author career? Love it. Anyone can answer the question of the week over at the Sell More Book Show After Party group or at sellmorebookshow.com. Kirsten, I'm so excited that maybe people that haven't heard you on the other podcast interviews or remember you from a few years back when you were teaching all the time. I'm glad they get to hear from you because you've had such great success. It's well deserved. You work incredibly hard, and I'm really glad that you got to join us this week. So, where can the peoples find you?
Yeah, you can find all kinds of stuff at createifwriting.com. And it's got links to the Facebook group and all that stuff. And then my author stuff is just at emmastclair.com. And I'm on most social media as Kiki Mojo, like almost everywhere, because I joined social media back before I was doing author stuff. And so that was my roller derby name. And so that's, almost
I'd
all the
forgotten
things.
about your roller derby. I love that.
Yes, we can't forget because it's all my handles for all my social media because I've been on. I joined Facebook, I think, back when it was only college because I was in grad school. Yep. Like I was on MySpace, back, so Instagram first year.
My University of North Carolina was like one of the first 100 colleges or something. And I remember one of my early marketing successes was a play that was just in one of the drama classrooms, but it was like a one-man show that I was directing, and promoted it on Facebook event in the first 3 months of Facebook being a thing. And the first night we had 80 people packed in the room. The next night, 110. Third night, 150. It was spilling out into the hallway. And I was like, hey, this social media thing is kind of interesting.
Kind of works. Yeah. I remember I still have a MySpace somewhere named, I changed my name to Turd Ferguson from the SNL Jeopardies. And I can't find the login, but it's still somewhere out there. There's like a picture of my dog or me. I'm not sure which one under Turd Ferguson on MySpace. So no social media success, just some ridiculous stuff over there.
Love it. Yeah. Well, definitely go check out Kirsten's stuff one way or the other. And thank you to everyone who has listened to the show for however long you've been listening to it. I do fully intend to keep this show going. Will it be another 10 years? I don't know, but we're happy to get this first 520 out of the way. And let's see if we can bank on an even 1,000 eventually. So
amazing.
That would be a good goal. But for Kirsten, I'm Brian. We'll have another guest co-host next week. But have a great week of book selling, everybody. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye.